So again, welcome so much. Thank you so much. I'm honored. It's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate and honor to be here on the stage with such incredible people, especially coming from the startup community in Rio. So it's a very good pleasure, and thank you for being here. I'm super proud of being here. So let's start with a couple of introductions first. So we have with us Derek Bittar. He's co-founder and general partner at Indicador Capital. So, and it's very interesting because they created something called data-driven investment. And please, Derek, if you want to introduce yourself and give us more perspective about what is that data-driven investment.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and thank you everyone to be here. It is such a pleasure to be able to talk a little bit about what we do. We're venture capital investors right here in Brazil. I'm Brazilian, born and raised in Rio de Janeiro.
Woo!
Yeah, and when I first started my career, the financial markets, they were actually in Rio de Janeiro back in 99, 98. Eventually, I was forced to move to São Paulo, as most part of the investment management industry moved. So I'm an economist, and having tracked a career with equities investments, basically fundamentalist driven, meaning that I was doing research about companies. Eventually, I fell in love with the theory of backing up founders and starting new businesses, which we name venture capital. So that's just a little bit about my background. I co-founded together with my partners Fabio, who's here in the audience. He's based in the Bay Area, and Thomas, who isn't here. Actually, he had a meeting to attend. We co-founded Indicador Capital, which is a cross-border venture capital firm. We back what we call the national deep tech heroes. So it's Brazilians, basically, that are doing businesses that go a little bit deeper in the technology. Why do we have an investment-driven approach, a data-driven investment approach? So when I was working at banks, my most important part of the job was to start trading desks and automate those trading desks. And along these almost 2 decades doing that, I learned that you have so many failures within the process due to human decisions, right? So how could I start an investment firm that would find great entrepreneurs, but from the early days, during the search, I would just analyze the opportunity per se, the data, what they have accomplished, the business description, traction. So we start from a very agnostic view to look after opportunities that match our firm's philosophy. So this is how we delve into the opportunity of looking first at a very data-driven approach. So the interactions with our firm, they're very much automated, but they oblige me to be in touch with the entrepreneurs. Which means if you fill out the form in our webpage, Fabio, Thomas, and myself, we are obliged to taking a decision about your business. So I think this is something magical, because when we do this in the process, we don't see a picture of the founder. We don't even have to know if it's a male or a female. So you take a lot of the unconscious biases from the early days of the process. So we understand that is a good way to kick off the relationship. And I will talk about it, how we process later on further in the panel.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, and definitely raising the bar on inclusion, right? Inclusion, diversity is very important in this ecosystem, in the way how we invest and the way how we are developing it. So fantastic. So welcome and thank you. It's a pleasure, again, to share the stage with you. Then we have with us Paulo Lerner. So he is the CEO and founder of SYOS. Right, so please, can you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of how you are disrupting the cold industry, the cold chain industry?
Hi guys, pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot, Carlos, for the invitation. We are long-time clients of AWS and honestly totally dependent on you guys, so thanks a lot. So we are connecting the cold chain. So the cold chain is that what brings medicine, what brings food to our table. So when people think a lot about agro or pharmaceutical, they always think about factories and development and production, but this is only a small part of the process. There is a whole process that takes products that are manufactured to our house, and that passes through transportation, to warehouses, to storage departments, to stores, and this whole process is really complex. And as of now, we are receiving products in our home that depends on temperature. So I'll say like 70% of the food we eat depend on temperature control. So it's what we're selling is a way for companies to manage the code chain that they use. And this is still starting. This wasn't available like 5-10 years ago. And we are combining IoT. So this is one of the sensors that we manufacture. So we already sold over 200,000 of those. And artificial intelligence in order to help these companies to manage the cold chain.
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, it's a pleasure to share the stage with you. And again, what I really like from the startup segment that we created a couple of years back, it's how we're disrupting and how we're enabling the innovation to happen and to ease the life of everyone, right? So it's very, very interesting to see this type of innovation. Congratulations on that. And finally, my Shara, Tocayo, or namesake, Carlos Bugs. So please introduce yourself. He is the founder and CTO of SYOS.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And thanks to be patient in the last meeting of the day and the last meeting of the Web Summit. My name is Carlos. I have almost 20 years experience in technology. I started my career in the area when not know the name IoT. You work with trackers, other kind of devices, but in the end of the day, it was the same thing, but in a different approach, right? I have experience in many, many areas like automotive, medicine, healthcare, and mining, and other ones. And I was co-founder of a few companies, and I learned a lot in this process. And nowadays, I'm prepared for this big challenge that's work with technology, work with IoT. That's a mix of technology, work together for a solution. That's it.
Totally, thank you so much. So let's start with the panel, then I have a couple of questions for you, and then we will start by asking one very important question. So right now, during these difficult times, being cost optimized is one of the biggest challenges of the startup, right? So can you give us a brief perspective about how the way how you enable technology and how the way how you identify these challenges have impacted the way how you invest, Derek?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a step back and just say the following. As a venture capital firm, there are several different theories that lead to the success of your fund, right? So a lot of people think that a venture capital is just a fund. We are a firm. We're also co-founders, but in a financial business to back entrepreneurs. Our business is basically digital transformation. So we back founders who are building stuff to sell to other businesses. A lot of B2B. There's almost no B2C, right? So we're not so concerned about growing very fast. We are concerned about being capable of delivering a sustainable growth and having healthy margins. So when we talk about analyzing the cost structure, and given that the businesses in which we invest, they're very dependent on cloud computing, definitely how the founders will structure their architecture to comply to a high standard of being optimal in this growth is very important. On the other hand, startups, they are businesses in formation. It sounds obvious to say that, but you can never expect to have an early stage, well, eventually you will find one or two, but it is very rare to find a startup that has a great CTO, a great CMO, a great CFO, and someone who does the cost management of the firm and manages to keep their hands on a strong service for cloud computing. So what I understand, and also for being an ecosystem actor, the job that AWS does for the ecosystem, that is providing a full stack solution to be efficient on the cost management within AWS, not to mention all the incentives that you provide the ecosystem, which our portfolio are provided with. So that comes a lot into play. Basically saying, if you're growing a company, you have also to understand how to land the margins so that eventually, if the capital dries out, you're still managing to deliver revenues and managing your costs.
Yeah, no, thank you for the references, and it's very important to highlight something that I would like to share with everyone. So as part of the AWS, we have something we call the well architected, which is a set of good practices that we use across all the different businesses in Amazon. And one of them, one of the pillars there is called cost optimization. So on this type of optimization, what would be your perspective, Shara, on the way how the infrastructure and the services that you are developing is cost optimized?
Okay. When we're beginning in IoT, we just have few devices. So I remember that we not pay nothing for Amazon to start. So we could start many processes, many tools for free, and try some ideas how to build the product. And as soon as we grow up, we could manage the cost based on how many devices we have on the network, how many clients we have. So the cloud gives us the flexibility to expand the cost based on what money we are given from the clients, right? So this is really important for us, because if not have this possibility, and 10 years ago we not have, Paulo not have, we probably need an IT guy dedicated to take care of the hardware part, infrastructure, the computers and so on. So have cloud part in our ecosystem give us the flexibility to test everything that we want. Okay. But in the end, we just scale what the clients want. So we test a lot of things on the market, and when we find our place, we scale this part. So this is really important for us.
No, thank you. And from the governance perspective, you share two very important topics, which is called the scalability, which, by the way, it's another pillar of the well architected, but also the way how you have the governance about that cost, right? So in this case, Paulo, can you share us a perspective about how do you manage that, and what is the governance model that you use?
For the servers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we take care, we have a specialist that take care of our servers, and it became, we've been doing this for quite a while, so this is my second IoT company. I have another one that does fleet management, and we've been building this knowledge for over 10 years now. So I believe we're one of the early clients of AWS. Right now, I think the main difference on the governance part is pretty much we have much more help from AWS on building this. So in the beginning, it was pretty much server and you were hiring an instance. Right now, we are using so many services that are provided from AWS that it became much more complex. So the challenge of governance is not the challenge when you're small. The challenge is when you grow quick. And it's good to have to know that we can rely on their knowledge, so we don't have to be like very experts on that, So we don't need to be the best in the class for that, and we can be in a situation that we know that like next month we're going to have a peak in demand, and we can call you guys, and you guys will help. So right now we're using also some tools that allows us to be much quicker on the market. So we're using a tool called QuickSight. I'm not sure you guys heard, but it's kind of much more a dashboard, a BI dashboard. Then you can embed in an application, and it's much easier to use than any other, and allow us to provide our clients with reports and KPIs and information that they need to make decisions without development. So, and this is really, really important for us because we are much, much quicker to the market. So, in general, like I would say that in the past, we had much more concern about governance. Right now, we know, like, of course, we have all the security measures, but something that's it works, it's much more reliable, and we're much more comfortable to grow.
It's good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I can imagine how you set up a goal and using an analogy of flying, right? You set up the goal and then you have an entire panel using QuickSight to see how the team is going, how the business is going, so that you can rely on that set of panels and all that indicators to you. Okay, that's good. So let's go to the next question that we have. So, Derek, for VC investments, I'm seeing that we have a very, very strong trend on IoT on the market right now. So can you give us or share more details about the story of the fund and how did you identify that IoT was the next big thing?
Yeah, definitely. So I think as a firm, you have to evolve over the years. And technology moves very fast. So back in 2014, we were already starting the data-driven investment approach within the firm, knowing that eventually artificial intelligence would be the topic of the moment. So almost 10 years forward, we now are all talking about artificial intelligence. And I think we should be concerned about the topic, right? It is obvious. But in order to this topic to be so present, over the last 3 decades, we have been stacking technology on technology on technology, and the different layers of technological solutions and algorithms and the whole story, the whole history of AWS allows the world to culminate in specific technological solutions. So artificial intelligence is a tool, right? It's a means to achieve more functionalities, more solutions. However, to make artificial intelligence work, you have to capture data, right? So how are we capturing data? So I am sorry to give you the bad news, but we are all being monitored 24 hours. Oh, Derek, that's obvious. I know about it. But you don't really realize. You don't realize you are being monitored 24/7. And the way that this monitoring is going to be interpreted is going to move very fast due to artificial intelligence. So, as a firm, we started looking into artificial intelligence, and then suddenly, my very good technological partner, because I'm an investor background, right? I worked with equity investments. My other partner, he worked with M&A, so mergers and acquisitions. Fabio, he has a very strong telecom and technology and tech investing background that led him to a very successful career within Indicador Capital and later Intel. So he says, well, you know, we should be tackling the devices as well, right? And for our luck, and I say luck because the whole story, I mean, it is a story to cry about, right? Because we won this mandate during the pandemics. And when the pandemics hit, I really thought that I was going to stop Indicator's business. Because we were so concerned about saving the portfolio, about helping the startups, that we interrupted the fundraising process, but we were enrolled in the public-private partnership of BNDES and Qualcomm Ventures. And, you know, luck can be programmed, you can be in the right spot, be the right person, be conscious about it, and as a group, that was our situation back in 2020. So we won this mandate, and we grew the firm to become an IoT leading investment firm in Brazil and Latin America, because we have grown the firm, now we have just announced last week, to 333 million reais. We expect to write 30 checks, so make 30 investments out of it. They are all IoT startups. Our pipeline for opportunities over the last about two years, we have analyzed 600 startups that are IoT startups in detail here in Brazil. So those numbers, you know, they lead to an ecosystem that is becoming stronger and stronger, and a thesis that we can now deliver services to almost any company in Brazil, ranging from smart cities, healthcare, the agribusiness, Industry 4.0. So we're looking into all of that. But we're not only dependent on devices. And to say the last phrase, when you're talking about IoT, and this is something that Alexa comes always to mind, Alexa is just a sensor. So you capture data through the sensor, transfer that through connectivity to the cloud, you treat the data, and then you deliver that data back with a security protocol to humans. So this is the narrative where we are inserted.
Absolutely, and it's funny that you bring that because I was also part of the team that launched Alexa in Spanish, so that is something that will be very interesting to discuss about. Let's just go to another very interesting question. So IoT versus software as a service, right? So as an IoT company, Paulo, you are seeing that there is a trend between having a lot of data and a lot of trends about how this is happening, right? So can you share us the perspective, or what would be the big differences between a SaaS and an IoT, and how SYOS is working on that side?
Sure. So in general, like most IoT companies are also SaaS companies. So they have to provide some kind of software interface and interact with customers. So I usually say to my team that we are much more complex than a regular SaaS, because we have everything they have. So we have all the marketing, we have customer success, the sales machine, and we also add a new layer that's the hardware part. And hardware, as my friend Derek always says, is deep tech, it's complex. It's not something easy to do. It has a different mindset. You cannot make mistakes when you're developing in scale. So it's something that's very sensitive. It's hard to test. You can test a small scale, but when you go big, you've got to make sure you have something that's decent. So I think as an IoT startup, we have to do everything they do plus a new layer of complexity. So that's why it's so important to have funds like Indicador that are specialized on that, because it's not something that's simple. Like one of the understanding how a startup is ready and where they are, how big is the market when you're talking about IoT is way more complex, and the barriers are much bigger to entrance, but at the same time the barriers to exit are much higher as well. So when you look at like a regular SaaS companies, they have like a 80% a month churn. Like a SaaS company will have like 2% a year churn, because it's so complex to change that that this becomes a barrier, and it helps you and you fidelize the client. So it has lots of similarities, but I would say it's an extra layer of complexity. And on the data side and on the cloud side, the same thing goes the same. Like as I mentioned to you, so we pretty much have, this is a user sending data every 3 seconds. So this is a user that's interacting with the system 24/7, and so like we have to handle as a Series A startup the same thing that like a Series C startup will have to handle if there was a SaaS only solution. So it's way more complex.
Well, thank you. And then definitely that is something very important that I like from the startup community, that we support all each other, right? So we have VCs, we have partners, we have a lot of different players that are just working all together to disrupt and to change the way how we are using the technology. So thank you for that. Also, as part of the well-architected, we have another pillar which is called the scalability, right? So Carlos, can you share with us what was the challenges and the way how you designed your architecture in such a way that it can scale up to the levels that Paulo was sharing with us?
For sure. The main point here is nowadays it's really simple to develop a prototype. You have Arduino, you have Raspberry Pi to test things. But when do you think and have a product scale across the country or across the world, you have a totally different approach how to handle things, right? Because it's almost impossible to if something happened bad on the field, how you do a handover of this hardware? It's really, really expensive. So since the beginning of the SYOS, we always have in mind that we need to have something strong. The baseline of the product should be really, really good. And also we need to have the possibility to update the software and change the things remotely. So what to have, and I think was really successful, was thinking IoT like ecosystem, not just a piece of software. So you have software running on device, like Paulo showed us. We have the networking. We have a lot of pieces of software to register a device on the networking, to set up it, to update them. So, and for every aspect that we think and base it, we use AWS, we use cloud for that. So, but the mindset is completely different when do you think and scale something for a big country like Brazil. So nowadays our hardware working for more than 7 years with battery is really, really safe. Our percent of problems is much, much lower because we did a lot of things in the beginning, but with this mindset.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And so just to complete, like what you're saying, it's not only about reliability. So we have an added layer of complexity, we want to make sure that our cloud partner is really reliable. Because if you have noise you already have problems in the field, there is no way around that. You already have problem with coverage. If you add problem on the cloud, that becomes extremely complex.
I totally agree with you, and definitely talking about noise, there is a lot of noise happening, so thank you for paying attention to that. So definitely the message needs to convey in that way. So the next question that we have is for you, Derek. So what makes you feel that SYOS had the right technology to invest?
Yeah, that's a very good one. It's let me try and take a step back here. When you look at a deep tech startup, I think I can call this the deep tech paradox, right? So you need a solution that is a deep tech, meaning a lot of technological competencies. And on the other hand, you need the people to execute that will grind and bring the business to the next level. So, it serves an investor nothing if the startup does a brilliant product, but then they're not able to grow it into a business, right? So we won't make a living out of a product per se, but we are going to make a living out of a company. So when we first got in touch with SYOS, and I am not the general partner in charge, that is Thomas, who's not here today, but I'm as a partner, I'm also observing from a distance. I can say that the technology that they are developing, the solution that they are developing, is a huge pain in the industry. So the pandemics made it more obvious, right? How can you be assured that the jab, the vaccine that you took, is still valid? How can you be reassured that that jab has not been subject to a 35 degrees Celsius temperature for a couple of hours before being delivered to the health station? How does that work? Nobody's measuring that. SYOS is, right? So we understand that SYOS brings a new level, a new stamp of approval in terms of this good is a valid good, has been treated very well along the way. So imagine you're waiting for a fragile box, and then the sensor says, this box has been shaken, this box might have broken pieces inside, right? In the limit, this is what we as customers should expect from a great technological service from the logistics provider. So SYOS, so not only for the technology per se, but also for the team. And Paulo, during the conversation, he's someone who earned a lot of respect from all of us for his background. Carlos as well, for his technological experience and very long track record. As he humbly mentioned, he said, I'm from a time when, the name IoT did not exist. We were dealing with sensors, right, and trying to get them connected, probably through Bluetooth, right? So he had to handle with the deficiencies that Bluetooth has to offer. And then in those days, you couldn't store data in the cloud. I mean, it was a very big hassle. So, those backgrounds, when you find that and you converge that to an interesting business as an investor, we try to bring on board our ecosystem. So last but not least, as a fund, so this is an interesting number about Indicator. so 92% of our capital is institutional. There's only institutional investors, barely pessoa física. So when we're looking at opportunities, we're also thinking, can I build synergies of this opportunity with my investors, right? So this is a lot of the angle that we worked on together.
So, and again, this is what I love, right? So we talk about synergies, about workers, about how we are partnering all together. So definitely building a community is something that we are here for. So thank you for your answer. So I have another question here in the list that we created together. So in these fast-paced new services, we have a lot of new services being created, right? So what is your perspective on how SYOS is keep the infrastructure and the services?
Sorry, Carlos, I'm not listening you well.
Can you hear me? It's better now?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Now, let me just go back again. So based on what you just shared, there is definitely an ecosystem, a partner, a community that we are creating all together, right? So based on the conversation that we have had so far, what is your approach with SYOS to keeping pace with the new services and the new technology that is happening? So what is your approach to adopt this new technology as part of SYOS offering?
Okay, the first thing is disruptive changes is not something that we try at this moment of the company, because we have thousands of sensors on the marketing. We have an entire ecosystem. So what we try to do, it's little changes, what is more simple to handle, more simple to manage. And also we can look in exactly if these changes is helping us in our business focus. Because there are a lot of trends on the market, but we not want to surf in these trends. We want to see exactly what can change our perspective of cost, of a new future for the client. It's not about innovation per innovation. What we can give to the table. So we are conservative in this moment, at this perspective. For sure, we do a lot of prototypes to test different things, but I always think what this technology means for us. What we could give for indicator for our partners. Cost, for sure, it's something that we are looking for opportunities to improve. So, but not big changes at this moment. We try small things at a time, and this evolution, in the end of the day, is a big change.
Okay, thank you. So now definitely that is something, and in Amazon we have a principle that is called customer obsession, right? So focus on the customer and work backwards from what the customer needs and to fulfill their expectations and to exceed their expectations. It's obsession, right? So thank you for that answer. It's fantastic. So now I have another question for you, Paulo. So on the investment process, right? So what would be the feedback that you receive from Indicator during the investment process?
So first of all, it's always like a long process, and it's a hard process. So we were already kind of like a Series A company. So most of the process was related to our clients and talking to our clients, understanding the market, understanding the need. Most of the feedback was related to go-to-market strategies and how to grow quicker. We already had kind of like an early on mature technology, and what they did that was really, really important for us is connecting with all these companies that are part of the ecosystem. So to give you guys an example, like we had an opportunity to talk to the tech guy in Qualcomm. If you guys don't know, Qualcomm is like the lead chip manufacturer, like telecom chip manufacturers in the world. Every single smartphone in our pocket has a Qualcomm chip. So we had the opportunity to talk to them, understand. They evaluated our technology. We had an opportunity to talk to other companies that are in their ecosystem that really could give us feedback much more than a regular investor can give us. Like a regular investor will analyze the business plan, will analyze all the financial information. But as Derek mentioned, we are a deep tech company, so the discussion needs to go further. Otherwise, it becomes like a lecture. So we're just talking to them, and they, okay. So this was something that was really, really important for us. We had the opportunity to have like high-level discussions with a guy that, for example, was specialized in China. So he was the guy that was going to China, that he was bringing technology to Brazil, and he could help us with our process. Qualcomm guy was really important. Like, for example, the time maturity of technology when you're talking about IoT, it's very, very long. So like 5G is something that will probably be ready for us in like 3 to 5 year time. It's something that we need to work now and start looking now, but it will take a little bit longer for us to mature and be in a situation that we can use. We are now looking at technologies that pretty much were launched 5 years ago, because we are dealing with sensors. We're dealing with very, very low cost applications. So first things go to smartphones, and with smartphones they get the scale. And with scale, the price is lower. And they get to a point in a few years where they're available to us. So I think the problem is that the decisions we make regarding technology can be a deal breaker. Like we can break the company if we not have the right partners that can help us understand the technology trends, where the market is going, and so we can make a long-term decision.
Fantastic, thank you. And just in a summary way, we have 3 dimensions that we have been discussing, right? So people, partners, community, right? So process and how to innovate, and technology, right? So those are like the 3 main dimensions that we have been discussing. So we are almost running out of time, so we have 2 minutes to have like a closure message to the audience and a digestion of what we have been discussing so far, right? So let's start with you, Carlos, and then Paulo, and then Derek, so that we can have a final comment so that everyone can just get that and get that to your heart.
Okay. I would like to start with talk about indicator partnership. In my perspective, the technical perspective is also really good. We work, like Derek mentioned, like a community is really, really important for us. Like someone that is trying to change the world is important to have partners, because we cannot do it alone. And we have a chance to talk with big companies like Motorola. It's really, really important for us. Also access to big clients that alone was not able to do. So it's not just about the money, it's about the sport, it's about to have someone in your side that is work together. So build value together. So that's our way of do the business, and we agree completely, and it's good to be in this family. And for someone that wants to develop IoT product, I suggest to think like ecosystem. Look that you need to have all parts work together. It's really important. It doesn't matter if something like Alexa hardware or a lot of hardware like what we did. It's also everything needs to work together in orchestration. And nowadays is a really excited moment because we have a lot of tools. And like we were talking about, artificial intelligence is one more tool that's available for us, right? And who knows what can be done with that, right? So it's really, really excited moment.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paulo.
So I'm going to focus on the topic. So how the cloud impacts the investment. I would say for a company like ours and all IoT companies, this kind of speed that we have right now would not be feasible without this kind of cloud. Like in the past, a company like ours would need to build the infrastructure ourselves. And so we would need to have like a team of engineers just looking at this. Now I have one person spending like 10 hours a month. And this is a game changer because like it would be so expensive to build the kind of solution that we need, that without cloud, like a fund, like Derek's, and a company like mine will probably be very, very difficult to execute.
Thank you so much, Derek.
I will throw a very short and sincere moment in life. That was back in 2015 when we were backing our startups pre-Fund 1 launch. So we had no capital, we were a completely disregarded venture capital. We had only our resumes, and we said, yo, is really AWS gonna offer our portfolio help? Like, is there this bundle for data? And we were like so honored that we could kind of build this program together and launch, you know, something that would support our startups early on. So that was a beautiful moment in life to say, now we can offer you guys this grant through data capacity through AWS. So we're thankful for the partnership. Has been extremely helpful to all of our companies.
Fantastic, a pleasure. And just a closure message for everyone. We have, as I was mentioning to you, a set of principles called the well-architected framework, which is also part of this offering that we have of services and good practices for everyone. And again, it's my honor and my pleasure to be here with such an incredible people. Again, let's have some fun. This is the last conference of the day, so thank you so much. It's again our pleasure to be here, and let's just innovate. Thank you, and that's it. I've been pressured by the guys over there. Bye-bye, adios.